Today we're diving into the truth about bulging and herniated discs, what you really need to know to understand the pain you are having.
That's right. So if we look here, we've got something that's going to make a lot of sense after you see the video, and we're going to show an additional exercise that we did not before that's going to help one-sided sciatica.
So we're actually going to go back in time and let Bob and Brad explain this very thoroughly. So here's a time traveling warp.
Woo, woo, woo.
Bob and Brad, the two most famous physical therapists on the internet.
We're going to be talking about actually the big lie, which actually comes in part from this book called Paindemic. And this was written by Dr. Melissa Cady. She's a doctor of osteopathy.
Sure.
And she wrote a chapter in this book called The Disc,
Sure.
I believe it is. And that chapter alone might be worthwhile getting this book, Brad.
Right, it's a good chapter, and
Yeah.
if you got back pain and you're thinking about getting an MRI, you really should read the
Right,
information.
MRI, or if you're thinking about having surgery,
Sure,
you definitely
yep.
want to. So we'll talk more about this book in future videos.
Sure.
But right now, let's talk about the big lie. All right, first off, let's say you're having back pain. You go in and you have an MRI, and they found out you have a bulging disc or a herniated disc.
Sure.
And you're going, oh my God.
All right, you're all excited,
You're
but
excited.
I better get surgery.
I better have surgery.
Right.
And the thing is, that's probably the last thing you want to do, because the problem is, what you'll find out in this study, we're going to show a couple studies, is that most people some people at a certain age have a bulging disc and they have no pain at all.
Right, exactly.
So the fact, let's go right to this chart,
Sure,
Brad,
I think it's a
first
good
off,
idea, Bob.
and then we'll show this,
All right.
okay? So if you have a bulging disc, what they did is they did MRIs on people. Can you see this, Lonnie? They did MRIs on people who were having no symptoms whatsoever.
Right.
They had no signs or symptoms of pain, right?
Yep.
And they did it on people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. What they found out is that 30% of the people in their 20s had a bulging disc.
No symptoms.
No symptoms.
Active people.
Yeah, 40% in their 30s, no symptoms. Had a bulging disc.
Right.
All the way up to when you're in your 70s, 77% of the people had a bulging disc,
Right.
but no pain.
And you can see it just gradually goes up with
Yep.
age.
So it's a part of aging.
Right.
It's a deterioration process.
It's like getting gray hair.
It's like getting gray hair, exactly. Or putting on a few extra pounds.
Sure.
maybe. So are you going to have surgery when you get gray hair, Brad?
No.
Okay. The other thing is, and we don't have a chart for this one, was for disc protrusions, which is really a disc herniation. We're going to show this on the model in a little bit. But on the disc herniation, the same was true, Brad. At age 20, 29% of the people had a disc herniation and had no symptoms.
Sure.
And all the way up to 70, I'm sorry, they had one for 80 years old.
Right.
All the way up to people in their 80s, 43% had a disc protrusion or herniation and no pain.
Right.
So,
So if you think about it, and you've got back pain, and you may have had that herniation in your disc for 10 or 15 years prior without any symptoms, and you get back pain, and it may be from a different cause.
Right.
You get an MRI, they see the herniation or the protrusion, and point the finger at that. You have the surgery, get it taken care of, and you still
have the pain
yeah.
because it wasn't from the herniation.
Right.
So we'll talk a little more about that, but right now Brad's going to show what a bulging disc would be like. First off, you have the disc itself, right?
Right. Well, let's look over at our Napoleon here.
Bonaparte.
We're going to look at L5 and L4, two lower vertebrae. This red bulge here represents a bulging disc or herniated disc. And now if we look at these two vertebrae, and we're going to take it out and show a model of those. This cup represents one of the vertebra. This is the other. The green ball represents
the actual disc itself.
Right. So this is a healthy disc here. It moves, it has some mobility in it so that you can move your spine as we all do. But if you get a bulge, just kind of zoom in here, Lonnie, and see how we're, right where my finger's pointing, right there's a bulge starting, okay? And particularly if it's in the back where most bulges are, when you bend forward, it oftentimes makes it worse. Or when you lift weights with poor body mechanics and seated with poor posture, and that bulge can eventually, boom, turn into a herniation.
And herniation is when some of the inner material of the disc actually spills out back behind there.
A disc is just like this. You can see there's material in there it's liquid, kind of a thicker liquid, but it can come out and cause that bulge, and that's a problem that you do not want to have.
Well, it's a problem that is not really a problem unless it pushes out the back and hits a nerve, Brad.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I guess what I meant to say was when
yeah.
it gets this far out and it's extreme, and creating pain and whatnot.
So when should you have surgery? There are times you should.
Right.
One is if this bulge or herniation is pushing against your spinal cord, which is running right down this hole here. The other one is if it's hitting one of the nerves coming off on the sides. If it hits that nerve, it would actually could give you some pain down your leg. And if it's causing you foot drop, Brad, where you actually started getting weakness in the foot,
Sure.
that's usually a sign that you're getting pressure on the nerve and it's going on to the, it's pushing on the nerve itself. The other time, so really 3 instances. One is it pushing on your spinal cord, and it'll tell on the MRI, you'll be able to see that.
Yep.
2 is it pushing on one of the spinal nerves.
Right.
Or 3, is there an actual mass there? I mean, if you have cancer or some type of mass growing.
Right, sometimes it's benign and they get in there and remove it and it takes care of the problem very quickly.
Right, or a blood clot. There could be even a blood clot growing on the spinal cord. Dr. Cady, she said she knew plenty of physicians and surgeons who would avoid back surgery like the plague.
Sure.
That was one of her quotes. So it's really something you want to consider, that you really want to try some aggressive physical therapy way before you try surgery.
Right.
It really probably was the last case scenario. So again, don't get distraught if you're seeing a lot of things on your x-ray as far as which is just showing general old aging, which could be a disc protrusion or disc herniation.
Yeah, I think Bob meant to say MRI.
What did I say?
X-ray.
Oh, X-ray. Well, X-rays show some of that stuff too.
Sure.
All right. Thanks for watching, and make sure you subscribe if you haven't already.
Right.
Or we'll come out and slap you.
Yeah. Oh, Bob, we're not that violent.
All right, now that was a really good example of how, or a model of how that disc can actually herniate or bulge. Good visual. Let's say the bulge is on the left side, which is causing pain of the sciatica down the left leg. Mike, what's the exercise that we learned from Rick Olderman in the recent year or two, how to correct it?
So what you could do is go to a top of a door frame, a pull-up bar. You can use a stick if you're shorter and can't reach high enough. So what I'm going to do is go on the side that is painful, reach my hand away from me, and then I'm going to lean into the doorway like this. I'm going to feel a good stretch here. If you're not feeling much stretch, you can try bending your knees a little bit more, and it's really pulling, and that is taking stress off of the herniated disc, relieving some pain you may be experiencing.
That's right. Now, if you cannot reach the doorway and you have a stick 4 to 5 feet tall and you can grip on it so that your hand does not slide down, that's really critical. And the other key thing is if you don't have a rubber tip, it may slip. And if you're using a countertop or a table, you do not want it to slip off because it will not be a good experience. So put your shoe on there and that'll take that off and give good grip. And you can see there we go. My left knee's bending. I'm feeling that stretch on the left side. Monitor the pain or the symptoms, tingling, numbness down the left leg. If the leg is feeling better as a result of doing this or while you're doing it, you know you're right on target for the correct treatment.
Now, if you want to check out more videos on back pain, you can click the video link on the screen. 6 best low back stretches for max pain relief.
Every position.
Bob and Brad, the 2 most famous physical therapists on the internet.